just to let the audience know, Mr. Merrill did exceed the 5 minutes by 18 seconds. I, again, have some time left for Mr. Watson, so it will be taken from that. At this point, in place of the next speaker speaking against posting the superintendent's position, I think it's appropriate to read into the record a letter received by the school committee from the members of the Lynn City Council. We just heard from Ward 3 City Councilor Darren Sear referencing this letter, so this will take the spot of one of the speakers against posting the superintendent's position. It's dated April 26th, and it states, "Dear school committee members, it is our understanding there is a public hearing this evening regarding Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Catherine C. Latham's future employment. This past Tuesday, April 24th, 2012, Ward 3 City Councilor Darren Sear made a motion at the City Council meeting to send a letter in support of Dr. Latham's job performance to your honorable body. This motion passed unanimously. The Council feels Dr. Latham's job performance, dedication to all the children of our city, and her unwillingness to settle for the status quo are educational leadership qualities that greatly benefit the students, not only while they are in our school system, but for years beyond. In our humble opinion, we believe the children of Lynn will continue to prosper and improve by extending Dr. Latham's length of employment. Her passion, devotion, and commitment are obvious to all and would be near impossible to replace. We appreciate the opportunity to send this correspondence and defer to your collective wisdom on the matter. If this document would be read into the record, it would be greatly appreciated, and it is signed by the 7 ward councilors and the 4 councilors at large. I will hand this off to Ms. Giarabino to be kept for the record. Speaking next in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Loretta Cuff O'Donnell.
I'm going to give my minutes to someone else who might be there.
Okay.
Excuse me, could I also request that everybody speak up a little bit for the folks in the back?
Sure. Next to speak against posting the superintendent's position is Robert Murphy.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to apologize. I'm either fighting allergies or a cold, so my voice is not the best, but I felt my voice needed to be heard this evening. That is why I'm here. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak. Oh, I'm sorry. Robert Murphy, principal of Pickering Middle School.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak this evening. As you all know, I am leaving my position as principal at Pickering Middle School as of June 30th, 2012. I want to assure all of you the reasons for my departure has nothing, and I want to reiterate, nothing to do with the state of Lynn Public Schools. The opportunity to return to the town where I grew up is one that many people strive for. I made this difficult decision after a lengthy thought process and much deliberation. I want to express my thanks and gratitude to all past and present members of the Lynn School Committee for your support during my 5 years as principal. I would also like to thank the superintendent to know how much I appreciate her mentorship, her guidance, and support as both my deputy superintendent and my superintendent of schools. I look at my leaving Lynn as a closing of, not a closing of the book, but a changing of a chapter in my life. I know that the entire principal group appreciates the superintendent's support over the last 3 years, and I know that this support will continue. I know that the district is moving forward and will continue to serve the students of this city in exemplary fashion under Dr. Latham's leadership. Once again, I want to thank you for your time and your considerations. Thank you.
Next to speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Robert Clay Walsh.
Robert Clay Walsh, 62 Birdmont Ave, Lynn, Mass. Good evening, Madam Chairman, and school committee members. Tonight, I do not see myself as an advocate against the superintendent. Instead, I see myself as an advocate for the Lynn Public Schools. I am here because I believe that the position to open the opportunity to open the position for superintendent should be reconsidered tonight. I believe that it makes good common sense to consider all options when deciding who will lead the future of our school system. I realize that back in February, our current school committee members had to make a decision with the information they had in front of them at that time. However, tonight brings a new light to all of us. In light of the petition, in light of the speakers here tonight, I think this gives our school committee an opportunity to rethink with new information that there is a real constituency out there that did not agree with the vote made in February. I would like to ask that you reconsider your vote. Thank you very much for your time.
Next to speak against posting the superintendent's position is Al Melanson.
Good evening. My name is Al Melanson. I had been a lifelong resident of Lynn, living here for over 65 years. A couple of months ago, I did move to Topsfield because of the condition I have. I had to downsize and find a residence that was more accommodating for my condition. I was prepared to talk about a lot of different innuendos and statements that had been made in previous meetings. But there's one that really bothers me tonight, and it's when they talk about MCAS testing. I believe that, and I think that Dr. Latham does not teach in any classes in our city. And in fact, if this is the case, is this an indictment against our teachers? And if it is, I have a problem because my wife just retired as a teacher. My daughter is in fact a teacher in the city. And I have many, many, many friends that are in fact teachers in the city. They are nothing but professional. They do their very best to provide the very best education that can be provided for any student in our city. So in fact, these individuals, do they understand that we do live in Lynn? It is diverse, and it's not getting old, and it's not getting any better. Do they understand that in any given day, any given week, any given month, that a new family could take up residence in Lynn, coming from another country, and they bring in children that are either elementary school students, middle school students, high school students. They don't read, write, speak, or understand English, but in several months, they have to take a test. They call it MCAS. And that MCAS, they're going to be graded against students in the same equal age and grade. Students that live in Newton, Wellesley, Oxford, Topsfield. Do they think that these residents, that these communities have the same diversity that we do? Do they think that any teacher in any of these systems can come in and do a better job than our teachers? I don't think so. Do they understand that the state and federal government mandate programs that are either underfunded or not funded at all? Do they think that a superintendent from another community can make this problem go away? That we take money out of our budget to have to support these mandated programs? I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen, I have had the opportunity to come or go to every single junior high and high school in our city this week. And the topic of conversation has been about the superintendent. I had found no one, and I talked to teachers, administrators, and principals. No one had anything but praise to say about Dr. Latham. They say that the most severe comment I heard was that she is demanding, but she's fair. What an endorsement that is. I think that you can look anywhere, far or wide, and you're not going to find a person more qualified because of many of the reasons that I heard this evening. She's from Lynn, she understands Lynn, she knows Lynn. You bring a superintendent in from another community, it'll take them a year just to find out where Ingalls is. This is an individual that is tried and true and tested. I don't think that the Patriots are looking for a replacement for Bill Belichick to think they're just going to go out there. When we have the very best, let's keep the very best. I'm totally not in support of posting any type of position for superintendent. Thank you so very much.
To speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Lisa Connolly. And again, I'll just remind Ms. Connolly and everybody, name and address.
Yes, my name is Arita Hereford Ford. I'm speaking on behalf of Lisa Connolly.
Are you taking Ms. Connolly's time?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Arita Hereford Ford. I'm at 73 High Rock. My name is Arita Hereford Ford. I live at 73 High Rock Street. I want to thank you for this opportunity to address this situation. As a person who has 3 kids who have gone to this, through Lynn schools and done very well, I have a grandchild who's in the school system now. I would like, the reason why we're voting, or we would like to see the position advertised, is for more than anything, we just want to see, have the position posted so that a person, you know, Lynn is a diverse town. And if you've been here for a really long time, you know that we have influx of different things, from Russian to Somalian to everything. But we also, if you have been here for a very long time, you know this, but we want everyone to take a moment and say, we want to have them look at the big picture. The big picture of Lynn is that we don't want you to be complacent about the schools. We don't want everybody to sit back and say business as usual, because it's not business as usual. There is even, in the city of Wellesley has a needs to improve in their data. Because even in Wellesley, they might have 92% on their MCAS scores, but because there was not any movement, they are considered and a need to improve. We all need to take a look at the big picture and say, advertise the job so that other people, new eyes, looking at Lynn through new eyes, that's what we want. Just somebody to look at it in new eyes and say, maybe they can help us. I don't see anything wrong with advertising the job. And Dr. Latham might be the best person for the job, but there is nothing wrong with just advertising. and we've all kind of sat back and been complacent. There are people who have lived in Lynn for 20 years who don't know where the Highlands is. But so I don't think that that's, you know, because you live here doesn't mean you look outside your door. You know where things are, you know where Ingalls is, you know where things, you know, how things are moving. Be a part of it. Get a little understanding of what's going on in your neighborhood before you can talk about somebody else's. Thank you.
Next to speak against posting the superintendent's position is Nancy Takis Conway. And again, if you please state your name and home address, thank you.
Nancy Dakis Conway, 8 Roland Terrace, Lynn. Please note I am here of my free will and not in fear of retribution from Dr. Latham. Good evening, committee, colleagues, and general public. I am the proud principal of Washington Elementary School. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my support to Dr. Latham and congratulate the school committee for renewing Superintendent Latham's contract in February and urge you to do the same again tonight. As we all know, Dr. Latham is a very bright and analytical leader. She is very adept at using data to drive decisions. She has held us all to high standards and led by example. She has an incredible work ethic. But that is not why I am here. That is to be expected of any superintendent. I am here to tell a different story. For those of you who may not know, the Washington Elementary School is a special education school for students with significant challenges. When one looks at the data, one sees high numbers of staff, low numbers of students, and a pretty high price tag. I am sure a superintendent's nightmare. Dr. Latham was not and is not an expert in special education. What Dr. Latham has learned is the human side of special education. The side where fare is not equal. The side where students get what a child needs. The side where specialized training, staff, and books are the norm. The side of special education where student growth is measured not just educationally, but socially and emotionally. Dr. Latham has made the commitment to both financially and personally to the Washington School and to the special education schools students all across Lynn. A true leader is one who is reflective and willing to learn. Dr. Latham has demonstrated beyond doubt all the necessary attributes of a true leader. Thank you.
Next, to speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position, Jesse Jagger.
Hello, everybody. I am Jesse Jager. I live at 7 Williams Place in Lynn, and I am not a lifelong Lynner. I moved here about 10 years ago, largely in part because of the schools. We wanted to raise our kids in a very diverse community, in diverse schools, so that they could get an education that they would not get in more monogenous white communities, and that is an education in multiculturalism and how to work with different people from different backgrounds. And we feel like we're getting that, which we're happy about. Someone asked earlier, they're not sure why this happened. How did this hearing happen? And I actually have a fairly good idea why it happened. And that is that I feel that many parents in this city, particularly parents that might not have grown up here, feel like they do not have a voice in the Lynn Public Schools. And a couple months ago, actually in the fall, I went by myself just to heard about this Opportunity to Learn conference that was being held by an organization in Boston, because I'm deeply committed to seeing our schools improve for everybody. Every citizen, every child in our school and our school system deserve a great education. And And I think Mrs. Powers from Ingalls can attest to the amount of hours I put in there to help out students there. By happenstance, a group of us found each other from Lynn, other parents, got talking that were all at that gathering. And we realized and started holding meetings with parents across the city, particularly from communities that do not speak English. And what we heard over and over again is that parents don't feel like they have a voice in the city, in our schools. We formed a group called Lynn Parents Organizing for a Better Education and sent all of you a letter this week, which I hope the Postal Service has gotten into your mailboxes. I will not read it, but as a process note, can I just give it to that for it to be put into the thing? Okay, I'll come to you in a second. But what we, it's unfortunate that this is such an adversarial back and forth, either for or against, because I actually think there's middle ground here. And that middle ground is actually through evaluation. The evaluation of the superintendent. And there's an evaluation tool that is going to be started to be recommended by the Mass Department of Education. And we really encourage the school committee to put that into Secretary Latham's, or Superintendent Latham's contract. And the part that we find most important is that there be public hearings to establish goals. Transparency, allowing parents' voice, I think, will stop things like this from happening because parents will feel more engaged and heard by our elected officials and by the school district. Thank you very much for your time.
No idea, but I wish I would stop it.
Next to speak against posting the superintendent's position is Christina Colella.
Good evening, Christina Colella, 7 Westview Road, Lynn, Massachusetts. Before I begin, I just would like to thank Dr. Worry and Dr. Latham for coming to the school today. We had a fire on the corner of Green and Front Street, and 3 of our families were greatly affected by it, and they were immediately there to help us with any support they could give. My name is Christina Colella. I am here to show my support for Superintendent Kathy Latham. I am a lifelong Lynn resident, product of Lynn Public Schools, and a teacher at the E.J. Harrington School. I began my teaching career 8 years ago at the Harrington School, and after working at a few different schools, returned to Harrington when we were declared level 4. From the beginning of this process, Kathy Latham has been our biggest advocate and source of support. I have been heavily involved in the redesign process and know how much work our central administration, led by Dr. Latham, has done to support us during this long, tedious process. As I sat at the school committee meeting in February and read the articles published in the Lynn item, I wondered if those involved realized how much Dr. Latham has done during her time as superintendent, or how difficult it would be to fill her position. To imply that Dr. Latham should reapply if her position was posted is an insult, and something I'm sure not many people would do. She is committed to the Lynn Public Schools and the city of Lynn, and has proven to be an effective leader. I would like to end by sharing with you a piece of data the E.J. Harrington School, with one of the highest ELL and low-income population of students, as well as the highest mobility in the city, recently submitted in our redesigned renewal application. If you look at this graphic, you will see that Lynn as a district is almost directly with or above the state in all areas of growth, ELA and math growth in grades 4 and 5. The student growth at the E.J. Harrington School, with the support and direction of Dr. Latham, has risen high above the state. This data speaks for itself. Dr. Latham is doing a superior job. Her qualifications are outstanding, and the Lynn Public Schools continue to rise among urban districts in the state. I am strongly against posting Dr. Latham's position. I do have the graphic for anyone in the audience who's interested as well.
And we will place that into the record also.
Thank you for your time.
Next to speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Calvin Anderson.
Thank you for this the petition,
Please
is this on?
state your,
my
it
name's-
is on, and name and home
My
address.
name's Calvin Anderson, 12 Concord Street in Lynn.
Thank you.
I signed the petition because, as a matter of course, I like to give public policy a chance. This shouldn't be considered, as the last speaker said, an adversarial type relationship. There's a lot of good things that anybody's record has, and there's a lot of good things to speak to that, but who could deny the resources that we have in Lynn, the best resources we have are our children for the future? Who could deny them the opportunity? What if there was a better candidate out there somewhere in the globe? Wouldn't we just have to look and try to search them? I'm speaking here as a taxpayer. I'm rather an empty nester. I don't have any children in the system, but I have neighbors that do. And a hefty amount of my tax burden is on those schools. The youth are our most important resource. The petition is really not to deny, not to remove someone. I was confused on this because the way I look at it, this is a wonderful positive opportunity to open up, to do a global search. The due process seemed to be skipped over, and I'm just wondering why people were thinking that this was an adversarial relationship. It's just a matter of whether we should post it or not for the future of the children. A position shouldn't be an entitlement. There should be periodic reviews, and once again, if everybody that spoke in favor of the current situation, the superintendent is so much in favor of the record, then what does anybody got to fear? Let's search out globally. I don't have any access to Brian. I don't know anything. I've never met the current superintendent, and I really don't have anything more than a few things that I've noticed happen on the current watch. I was recently at the Lynn Museum. There was a exhibit called More Than a Number about the Cambodian refugees that came in. They were assigned numbers instead of human names, etc., after their killing fields incidents. And there was a youth standing there, a Cambodian youth, who was asking rhetorically, what's this all about? He was getting his information from the exhibit. So I turned and I said, gee, this is how shouldn't people be learning about the heritage and their own recent history in our school system? So there's one point. I just asked rhetorically, should this be happening? I also hear teachers, current teachers and lifelong learners who have had the benefit of Lynn school system education use terms such as shoulda went and less people. Now, anybody who doesn't understand why those are grammatically incorrect, maybe you should look it up, because those are third grade level type of Also, the aforementioned certified letter, here's one of my favorites. I understand that the first 10 signers of the petition were obligated to receive a certified letter. The names, I guess, were certifiable through various references, sources, voters' checklists, various directories, and here I get the letter and my name is misspelled. Now, if this is the type of sloppiness that we condone and just say, well, gee, it's the secretary, he didn't know any better, or the principals are in charge of getting schools out to the students, well, then you guys got to go back to asking where the buck stops. You know, good old Harry Truman. What else have I got here? I represent some newcomers, by the way. I hear a lot of people talk about the benefits of being a lifelong learner. Well, it kind of makes some of us feel a little bit left out. You know, there's a certain arrogance when you say, gee, we've been here all our lives, you can come in and pay some taxes and maybe have some say in what goes on. But the rhetorical question to ask is, if the people in charge have always been from Lynn, why is there so much to fix? So let's just get rid of the xenophobia. Let's put out a worldwide search. Maybe it'll come back to the current superintendent. But we can't deny the kids and our populace the chance. How would you feel if there was something out there and you missed the opportunity? So, anyway, I don't know if I did the time, but I just wanted to say that.
Next to speak against posting the superintendent's position, Dick McGinnis.
Dick McGinnis, 43 Edgemere Road. I've been a lifelong resident of Lynn. Dr. Latham, I congratulate you. You got the city council to vote on something 11-0. The words for Kathy, fair, decisive, and something that's been hinted at, the ability to say no, which is certainly an important job, qualification for that job. But what hasn't been mentioned at all tonight is Dr. Latham's ability to deal with the people from the state. The school committee knows that your powers have been greatly reduced by the state. You have a superintendent who can work with these people, who can talk with these people, and most importantly of all, is respected by these people. You do not want to lose that relationship. And one other thing that I wasn't going to mention, but how would you like to have your job posted every year for the job that you are at? I'm sorry. When you're doing a job, you get rewarded. Thank you.
Next to speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Lissy Romanow. And again, if you please state your name and home address, thank you.
I just wanted to confirm that if I'm not a Lynn resident, that I can speak at this hearing. Okay, my name is Lissy Romano. My home address is 18 Robeson Street in Jamaica Plain. I work for Neighbor to Neighbor, which is a community organization at 112 Exchange Street, Lynn. Thank you very much for holding this hearing today. I am speaking in support of posting the superintendent's position, not in response to her particular performance, but out of a commitment to transparency and accountability in the Lynn school system. Being an organizer is nothing like being a superintendent, except in the ways that there is always more work to do because there's always some problems and there's always someone who's unhappy with the way that we're trying to solve them. At the end of the day, I think that this hearing never would have had to happen. In fact, if parents had felt that their voices had been recognized. And so I think that moving forward, in order to make note of the voices that have not been heard in your process of voting, and in order to redress a situation where people feel that their thoughts and their feelings have been excluded, that out of this commitment to transparency and accountability, the school committee owes it just to post the job and to see who else will apply. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next to speak against posting the superintendent's position is Matt Wilkins.
My name is Matt Wilkins. I live at 6 Otis Street. I'm a guidance counselor at Lynn English High School. My extended family and I have known Dr. Latham for many years. I attended the Lynn Public Schools with her 3 children, and I was fortunate to be her colleague at Lynn English. As for her performance as superintendent and an educator in general, I have great respect for Dr. Latham and believe she is steadily leading the Lynn Public Schools in a positive direction. Since her days of teaching math at Lynn English, her focus has always been the education and general welfare of all students. In addition to creating the AP Calculus program at Lynn English so students could earn college credit, she developed an MCAS preparation program which led to improved student scores. She also supervised the Student Tutors program and began a student club for future teachers. Why does any of this matter now? Because to this day, I believe she remains a proactive, diligent, focused, and determined leader to the Lynn Public Schools. I may not agree with all of Dr. Latham's decisions, but who amongst us always agrees with our boss or top management? Dr. Latham is in charge, she has a vision, and it's my job to support, not undermine, her plan of action. In my role as a guidance counselor, I have seen quite a bit of progress in her 3 years as superintendent. My students have access to a modern computer lab and guidance thanks to all the new computers throughout the school system. Dr. Latham's recent introduction of the Naviance and Apex programs allows secondary students to map out their educational and career goals while also recovering credit from courses they may have failed. Because of these 2 programs, our dropout percentage is steadily decreasing. The growing number of smart boards in classrooms and improved technology in the auditorium have allowed guidance counselors to reach students with greater frequency and efficiency. The partnerships that she has fostered with local colleges and federally funded programs, such as Educational Talent Search and Upward Bound, have allowed my students and their parents to gain access to tutoring, SAT prep, college field trips, and financial aid planning. Because of her connections and familiarity with the Department of Education, and because of her competent administrative team that surrounds her, we guidance counselors are on the forefront of state and federal initiatives such as Mass Grad, Mass Core, and Mass Model. Having had no prior experience with MCAS appeals, she took the time out of her busy day to answer my questions and guide me through the process so I could successfully assist my students. Recently, when Dr. Latham learned directly from a parent that my student was suicidal, she dropped all other responsibilities to ensure that child's safety. Why do these anecdotes matter? Because they remind me of stories fellow educators told me about my grandfather, whose name adorns this building. He listened to and helped those people, providing direct assistance to children. Dr. Latham, I believe that he would be proud and honored to know that you sit in the chair that he once occupied for 13 years. My grandfather once faced a similar effort to oust him, but it failed too. And I hope after tonight, both you and all school committee members can come together to find some common ground to continue the forward momentum I feel happening in the Lynn Public Schools under your leadership. Thank you.
The next name on the sign-up sheet to speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Donna Whalen. I happen to know.
I inadvertently put my name.
Would you like to speak in favor?
No, I'm not going to speak in favor. I'd like
Okay.
to speak again. Because I don't have that list.
Okay, I will put your name on the list to speak against then, and I will choose another name from the list of speaking in favor. All right, thank you. The next speaker in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Lori Armenio.
She had to leave. She wasn't feeling well.
The next name on the list to speak in favor of posting the superintendent's position is Paula Vibard Moore.
She left too. She went to the Celtics game. Good story.
The next speaker, unless we have two by the same name on here, is Christian Merrill. You have already spoken, Mr. Merrill, and there is no second Christian Merrill in the room. Okay. And I will remind the next person, either you have an extremely creative name, or we are asking for actual names, not pseudonyms to be used. But I do have a Master IC Victory that would like to speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My honorable name is Michael Victoriano, and I live at 403 Summer Street, here in Lynn, Massachusetts. I didn't prepare anything beforehand, but I did take down a couple notes that I'd like to run through very quickly. One moment, please. Okay. To begin with, as much as I love my teams, I cannot compare the position of superintendent to that of a Patriots head coach. I think that's a great example of how far apart both sides of the room are, as far as that's concerned. This is something that should be taken very seriously. Our future lies in our children, and our children's education, and our children's way of life should be treated in as serious as possible. As serious as possible. My second point is that, statistics aside, is every child in Lynn being granted equal opportunity to be successful? Some people will throw numbers at you. Other people will throw programs that have been created. That aside, is every child granted the same opportunity? And I think that's a question that everyone in here can answer, and you guys can answer also. This is the last position of office that should come close to being a hand-me-down, or should come close to being a position of entitlement. Competition is great for innovation and its citizens. It provides better products, better outcomes, and results. Unfortunately, none of us would like for our job to be running on a one-year term and have to renew it or go through whatever process it is. But unfortunately, this happens to be one of those positions where every opportunity should be viewed. Every opportunity should be taken. There should be no shorts when it comes to our children. Lastly, the principal shuffle was a little bit confusing to me. My daughter, my 8-year-old daughter, she goes to Connery School, and the principal that left there, she went to Harrington. This same principal that left there labeled me a problem parent to the new principal of the school. If being a problem parent is a parent who's concerned about a broken piece of equipment that's been laying in the playground for over a week, and carrying that big old heavy piece of equipment to the office and asking, what would you guys like to do with this? Because it's been in the park, broken, for over a week. If being a problem parent is the parent that walks, every morning when he walks his daughters into school, that there is a trash pile in one corner of the school, or there are empty beer boxes that are laying around on the school